Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is going to be game number 4 of the LEC finals between Fnatic and G2, and I am just jumping to the pick ban. This has been 3 games in a row now where Fnatic has had the better draft. They're currently up 2-1 in the series, but I feel like the overall level of play from a macro standpoint, and specifically games 2 and 3, left much to be desired. And it's not to say that Korean teams are perfect by any means. You just tune into an LCK broadcast when I'm casting, and I'll make sure that, there's no bias in what I am saying right now. Aatrox actually going to be banned away last here, as Fnatic, I guess, is on the red side, but I think Aatrox is a pretty poor ban. I've already talked about it several times thus far. Akali now is going to be picked up, more Sylas priority on the side of G2, but now they're showing that Sylas has to, in almost all cases, go mid or top, unless Mickey X is able to play the Gragas in the support role, which would be a nice, interesting pivot. Now, this is a stage of the draft where you don't want to give too much away, but you want to choose champions that make the red side tell more about their narrative. They have dual AP champions right now on their side, and you want to know more. So one of the best ways to approach this is that either you choose a mid-rangey late-game type team composition yourself outright and accept the potential disadvantage that you're walking into, or you choose champions that have flexible purposes. So in this sense, if you know that you're up against Sylas or Gragas inside of the jungle, you could do something like you can choose Varus, who has flexible purposes inside of the bottom lane, and he has many different modes. You could do like Varus Karma, and then the Varus is obviously going in blind, but then the Karma is able to be flexed into mid support and top, and so you also conceal the Akali before handing over direction back to the opponents. Alternatively, you can do something like Karma and then Jungle. And if you do Karma and Jungle or something, you could do something like Ornn, even though I know that a lot of people probably don't like it, or maybe they just don't have enough experience with it. I remember doing some freelance coaching for some LEC pros and even some other teams in NA, and talked about Ornn Jungle. Ornn apparently was working really, really good in scrims, but the teams didn't like the play style of it. So I guess they're allergic to winning. But Ornn Jungle would be really good here with Karma, because then the Ornn, the Karma, and the Akali are all flexible. Ornn is even flexible into the jungle, as well as top and mid lane, depending on what the matchup would be, and so that would be a really nice conceal. Ornn has the ability to go mid-rangey as well as semi-early game if he is inside of the jungle role, because of his early game presence with the level 6 ultimate. The Karma obviously able to play different modes based on how she wants to itemize, and so that's all completely fine. And so I feel like there's a few options, but all of them have to basically be no theme, or not no theme. They have to be fluid and flexible champions that are able to take on several different roles until you have more information about G2's team composition. Shen is not that kind of a champion, even though he is able to be flexed into the top and support role. I believe that there is a Grandmaster jungle Shen player on Korea, but I doubt that Broxa is intending to play the Shen, and then they pick the Lee Sin. So here's what's going on right now. They are diving, heavy emphasis on getting a flank or a wide concave approach, or a wide arc, or, well, I guess that's a wide concave approach. Heavy reliance on now accelerating, because of the nature of the 3 picks together. The Lee Sin is going to not have as much scaling as what the enemy can pick, and now the enemy can actually just pick a team composition that has a lot of phalanx power. Kog'Maw would, I keep saying Kog'Maw, and Kog'Maw, you're dead, and you're dead. If Kog'Maw ends up getting picked in this spot, because then they just stand their ground. And if Fnatic try to recalibrate with a long-range ADC or a long-range mid laner, you're still walking into blind territory, and then you are off-theme with the nature of your team comp. So 2 really, really horrendous picks at this point in the draft. It leaves them extremely susceptible due to how deep it forces them into a certain dynamic of play, even though some people would look at Lee Sin as being a flexible champion that's able to go to different roles, and he has the dragon kick, and he's able to be useful there, and Shen is flexible to top and support, and they can look to get an edge later down the line. The problem is that later on in the game, when you think about what they need to do to break into the red side jungle and the dragon RNG that they need, regardless of if they have early game priority, they're still going to need to find a way to get the Shen, the Akali, and the Lee Sin onto the opponents, who are then required to use less resources and play from a permanently defensive position. All the while, this is still possible to have Sylas go into the jungle, Sylas mid or top, and then Gragas into support if they would want to punish the draft of Fnatic even harder. And so right here, I would probably say Kog'Maw is a really good pick. in this particular instance, because even if you pair the bottom lane with an aggressive AD, it's very easy to have the Gragas match counter gank everything and then just slightly lose gracefully in bottom lane. And then because the natural scaling of your team composition, you can get ahead. Even if someone would suggest picking some sort of like aggressive ADC that's able to bully Kog'Maw, we're talking about professional players that are able to play around things like this. The Thresh is semi-okay against playing or against these kinds of champions. Braum is also really good. If you notice the dive angles and how awkward he can be, especially in closed corridors, Braum is definitely not a bad champion here. Nautilus is also pretty okay, but it would probably be you surrendering bot lane play in favor of having a support that scales much later on into the game. I think it's a little bit too early to pick like the Zyra or something, even though we can also acknowledge that she's really strong. She's able to basically build Glass Cannon Mage, in which case Shen would fall off really hard, because then you have 3 champions that want to dive into the opponent and potentially be separated from their AD carry due to the range difference and how they conduct themselves in the team fight. And then the Zyra, which can just get lots and lots of damage and have her ultimate as well as the snares and the plants and whatnot. Just going to do a lot. So Kog'Maw is really nice in a spot like this. Ezreal is absolutely insane in a spot like this just because of how difficult he is to get onto and how flexible he is. So you're looking at champions that have a bluish theme in their nature. You're looking for like blue, green, and white in their nature, and then you're looking to change your Gragas to being a supportive kind of champion, because we've already mentioned that Gragas has 3 different modes basically inside of his champion, and then Sylas obviously doesn't really need to be explained. Then when you would go into the ban phase, you would take away scaling AD carry based options, because you would prioritize your AD carry as being the main proponent of destroying the enemy team, and even if they try to choose a long range mid champion, things would be very bad for them. And they ban Ezreal. Why do they ban Gangplank? Jace is open. Jace is open. I mean, Gangplank is open. You could have banned Jace, and then picked Gangplank, and then what? They're gonna send Lucian top or something like that to try to beat you. But that's a huge coin flip. And now they're picking Karma, which should have came in here. And then if you would have seen the Xayah, you could have recalibrated your draft to be more mid and long rangey. And now they pick the Tristana. So what do you notice about this this team composition? It wants to walk forward and run into the opponent, but there's other ADCs that do that a little bit better than Tristana, that doesn't also have the awkward breakpoints that don't align with her teammates. The other thing about this is these 4 champions obviously want to go in, or you want the Shen and the Karma to be able to protect the Tristana. However, you're giving over so many options to the opposing team. So the team composition is not really on theme. It's on theme in theory. You know, everyone dives in, Tristana just walks forward and kites, but there's other ADCs that do that, and they do it better without being awkwardly stunted. Aurelia ends up being picked, which is a terrible champion, and the reason that it's a terrible champion in a spot like this is because, again, it's fighting fire with fire. However, if the Aurelia does end up getting ahead, there's basically no stabilizing on this team composition, because the only insurance policy would end up being the Tristana, but if her teammates are too far behind, then they can't provide enough durability, frontline, mid-rangey kind of protection against the champions on G2, and then G2 also has an insane Baron taking potential, whereas this team composition does not have an insane way to stop it. This is actually a very weak blue side type team comp when you consider the champions and what it means if they get pushed into their tier 2 turrets and try to play a defensive posture if they end up falling behind. And so in a very interesting way now, if it is the Shen support, the Karma has to get ahead in top, the Lee Sin has to guarantee that Akali somehow maintains permanent priority over the Sylas, Tristana has to coast into the mid game, and they have to basically be even around the 20-minute mark or something of that nature, and then win in a team fight in which they botch it. G2 probably just has way too much power inside of a Baron, because this team composition is very bad at resisting Baron. So even though the Aurelia pick is not something that I necessarily like by any means, there's obviously reasons and purposes for it. Fnatic's team comp, I guess this is the first draft that they lose. So in game number 4, Fnatic loses this draft, even though I don't like G2s all that much. I think they have a false priority on Sylas, for instance. So let's just get into the game. All right. So it is going to be Karma up there in the top lane, and so there's obviously a little bit more value now. Karma would scale better from the top lane than Shen would, because it doesn't really matter if Shen is all that tanky, because then if the Tristana ends up going down and the peel is just not strong enough, it doesn't really matter if you get one pick off because there's multiple carry threats on the side of G2. The other thing about this is that the itemization for both of the parties, Gragas should actually be pretty relevant in the early stages of the game, in the mid-transition, and the first dragon of the game is actually Cloud Dragon, so we'll have to see how everything works out. Wonder, with how Bwipo is actually choosing to play the lane, he can hard shove this wave, recall, and then walk back to lane and have the wave coming into him, and Bwipo would be too slow to react due to his mantra usage, and then Bwipo would be very feels bad man. But instead, Yanko's actually pathing up to top, anticipating maybe a Lee Sin gank, and that's why he's taking the route that he is. He's waiting inside of the brush in the event that Lee Sin would walk over to the brush, and then they would be able to kill Broxah, because Bwipo and Broxah would think that it's an advantageous spot. Broxah hops over the wall, and that should never happen in a million years, especially because Wonder knows that it's a possibility. But then again, also, Yanko should follow the Lee Sin because he can interrupt the QQ with the E body slam if he does it well enough, and then he can then follow up the Q onto the Lee Sin. Then ultimately going tit for tat is more beneficial for him because it means that your top laner is winning out and is going to get a more advantageous recall. Gragas now proceeds over to the right-hand side. We see a trade happening down in bottom lane, and yeah, I don't know what happened there, but maybe just, I mean, Shen should never be able to land onto Thresh. That's really unfortunate, and now they see Jankos and Mickey, and Nemesis' lane state is in a really bad spot. This is really powerful. They just zoned Nemesis out of 60 gold, so there was nothing else to really do. Zaya's waiting to come back down into the bottom lane. Mickey is just getting vision control with Jankos, who's then going to return to his blue side jungle. And they also granted Caps a really, really nice lane state, so it's a really good prank. And you can see that even just by showing up a little bit, they keep Nemesis back, they keep him honest, and it's very awkward for him to get CS. I don't know why Caps pressed Q on the wave. That was really bad. And you can see that Hylissang and Broxah can't really do anything. And Nemesis is losing out on the trade, so I don't know what Caps is doing or why he's just arbitrarily pushing the wave. I remember seeing one of the final games, I believe it was between Nuke Duck and Caps, and the lane management by both of the players inside of the game, it was Lissandra Rise, was really, really, really bad. So, oof. Unfortunate there by Bwipo having to use his flash. And they end up getting the kill. Caps does end up living, and Bwipo does not have TP. Broxah should never actually lose. Okay, well, that sucks. Actually, no. It's fine. G2's okay right now. The Tristana pick right now up in CS has that one kill. Gold advantage for Fnatic, but they're the team composition that needs a gold advantage. It's also important to remember that Karma has the Iceborne Gauntlet, and so she's going to be going for the tanky or the off-tanky kind of itemization. And because the War of Attrition is really important to them, because the way that they want to team fight in the later stages is Lee Sin Q pokes, Karma pokes, and then maybe trying to bait G2 into taking a team fight. Leandre's would be really good as like a third or fourth supporting item rather than just outright going like Athene's and Ardent, although Ardent is pretty insane. With this team composition, they have a lot of... I mean, every single champion actually utilizes it. So, not the end of the world. Cloud Dragon actually picked up early by Fnatic. Jankos is dead. Let's take a look at what Jankos is doing one more time. You have to wonder why he's in this side of the river. You can see the Silas's mid-wave doesn't make any sense. He can't actually go bottom. He's attacking a control ward that he has no business attacking because Nemesis is playing right pocket and has first response. And then he also knew where Broxah was. So there's absolutely no excuse for Jankos to be here. In fact, he already probably should have just been on his red, or he should have been recalled in the first place. Let's see if he actually buys an item. It doesn't look like he buys an item, though, before walking off of the fountain. And so he should have just been at his red. G2 taking a very scrappy team fight, and for some reason Fnatic is handshaking it. And now Wonder and Bwipo. Nice feign right there by Fnatic. And remember, they're the ones that they need to get advantages despite having a scaling ADC. And that's it for Fnatic, so that's probably going to be it for top lane. Karma's good, but Top lane's probably lights out. G2 now with the advantage, with the overall better team composition. As Fnatic are looking for a pick inside of the brush. Doesn't the Shen sword still show? I believe that it does. Shen ultimate coming out, and they end up killing Caps, so Caps just not respecting the Shen. And now Mickey and Perks immediately start pushing in the wave, which is a pretty good response. But unfortunately, they can't make any play happen because Jankos is not on that side of the map. Yeah, people do forget Shen exists. We saw that happen earlier on in the LCK, where Shen actually came out, and there was definitely trades where the opposing team clearly did not respect Shen. And sometimes this happens with champions that aren't necessarily that good, although I do think Shen is good right now. But sometimes it does happen with champions where, and I have no idea what the hell these fights are and why they're this is just so arbitrary. No objective, nothing to really do. And it's like, if you win it, you feel amazing. If you lose it, God, like, this is a byproduct of them not timing Jankos' flash correctly. It's actually exactly what this is. Some people will say, well, he's afraid of Jankos pressing R, in which case Reckless should actually flash the R rather than flashing before Jankos uses the R. This is almost certainly, I would bet money, I mean, I guess I can be wrong, but I would bet money that it's them not timing Jankos' flash correctly. Well, now G2 gets the Ocean Dragon, causes a Cloud Drake to end up spawning. G2 are in a really good spot right now. They're ahead with the better team comp. Protobelt also on Sylas, not that good. He should just be going for the Ludens Leandres build. Protobelt's a bad decision. Because you already know that you're intending to win in the later stages, and then because you already were accelerating early, there's nothing to really gain by accelerating with a Protobelt, because there's no real key major neutrals to fight over, and you shouldn't be wanting to decide the game at super early fights, so Protobelt doesn't make any sense. It'd be a lot better to just go Lost Chapter into Luden's Echo, and then get the Leandres Torment. It would be so much better. Okay. Bwipo should freeze right now, but he's not. He's pushing it back out. Sylas should crash this wave into bot tier 1. And then wait for Tristana and Shen to hand him back a wave, and then Sylas should freeze the wave at bottom tier 2, sorry. Should freeze the wave at bottom tier 2. Mickey and Perks can get mid tier 1. That's completely fine. So the play here is take this wave, bring it up here, freeze. Gragas just go like this. Gragas just go like this, eat this, then recall. Aurelia crash this wave into this so that it bounces back up into this wave. Aurelia recall, Aurelia come here, eat this, and then you try to freeze with the 2 waves. Surrender mid tier 1 turret, so then the defensiveness ends up being this, which is really good. And then just continue to scale up. You can give away the second Cloud Dragon. Well, they don't have to. They can actually probably fight at the second Cloud Dragon. But it would be much favorable map state to do that. Instead, Caps is actually just pushing out the wave. If he took this wave all the way up, and Broxa and Nemesis don't have anything to do, and Gragas just eats the Gromp, and this wave comes all the way up here, Nemesis and Broxa cannot just randomly run up into the Fog of War because they don't have any intel on Gragas, and it becomes very, very dangerous. And then they just make use of better scaling and everything. Akali with an Oblivion or I guess Morello. Morello's okay because War of Attrition, and they have a Ravenous Hydra on Irelia. But who am I kidding? It's really just for the redemption and the Doran's Blade on perks. Robo should just be freezing, just like the Zoe and the Zoe Aurelia clip between BBQ and KT that I highlighted in one of my videos. Is this Leandri's on? Oh my god! Nemesis is fucking. He's been talking, or Bwipo's just been in the stream. I don't know if he's been here tonight, but 28, 29 month sub, baby. How you doing? All right. Leandri's is insane. Holy poggers. All right. Well, Fnatic moving out to parts of the map that they have no business being in. They're abusing Leandri, exactly. Think about the power spike that you guys have at Worlds, now that you know about Leandri's. Thanks to talking to the Leandri spokesperson. That's one. Ow, sorry. Already a leaked script. 2.5 minutes until the Infernal Drake. It's pretty impossible for G2 to lose it. Pretty impossible for G2 to lose it. I imagine that if Fnatic just had a better team comp though in a situation like this, the game definitely isn't lost. Even though it's 3.5, 4,000 gold deficit. Why is Lee Sin building Black Cleaver? That's very strange. I genuinely don't know why he's building Black Cleaver. They win via Black Cleaver, yeah, okay, it gives him CDR, it gives him HP, gives him the armor shred, which can help for a few of the champions, I guess even the Spellblade proc on Karma's Iceborne or something, but seems so bad. Yeah, Duskblade's actually a lot better. This is genuinely a spot where Duskblade's better. Okay. So Reckless is getting Tristana turret down in bottom. Nemesis had no business. Let's just look at this one more time. How far up is he? Like why see oh man. See, like this wave will come in and this turret's irrelevant. Like what is 500 gold right now at this game timer? And you have Infernal coming up in 40 and you don't want to have to be teleporting to it. And now Fnatic. So this is actually pretty interesting. So it's this is a really thin spot, and you guys are gonna need to follow along with me. You ready? So let's calculate the speed at which it goes down. Actually, we can track it. I'm gonna say that it takes about 14 seconds uninterrupted. 14:16. It's 24:02. Oh, even longer actually. But they don't have all their champions hitting it. It's even longer. It probably takes. Yeah. Okay. So what they should do, Fnatic should posture around here, sacrifice one member, and then Reckless gets Infernal. So if Reckless gets Infernal right now, it's probably, I don't know, what is it, a pickaxe or something maybe? That's 875. Akali probably gets like 1,500, 1,600 gold, right? Karma probably gets something like, I don't even know. Karma probably gets like near 1,000 gold too. Well, maybe not near 1,000 gold. She probably gets like 700 value, or no, a little bit more than 700 value. Probably gets like 800. So you got 875, 15, 800. Lee Sin's probably going to get about a pickaxe as well. So I guess you get like this. So you get all of these stats, and then your Shen gets like a longsword. Shen actually gets like or a little bit more than a longsword. He probably gets like slightly more than a longsword, like 355. So you add all of these values up. You lose this. You push out this wave really hard, and then you send, you send one of the members on a fucking hell ride mission to kill this wave, so that they have to use this wave after the Baron. And then because mid's already pushed up, you already attack about a minute worth of the Baron. And then because the side lanes are so ugly, G2 will ride this wave down. They'll get this turret. They'll come here. They'll get the inhibitor, and then you'll fight over this one because they can't utilize this one. And then you'll stall out the Baron, and then it's the best fighting chance that you have. This is sort of like when you're losing in chess and you put it in on one of those those AI websites. Like you give them the board and you ask the AI what to do. It still tries to just spit out the best possible response. Like in this one, you would try to stall their Baron just by a few seconds and have Reckless get Infernal for all the reasons that I just talked about. Well, yeah, Infernal is going to come up before they can finish the Baron, and then they can't run over to the Infernal. And then Wonder can't just the Infernal would already be dead. Infernal would already be dead. Like, if they just let them take the Baron, you stay at a point where you try to let them take the Baron. The correct play from G2 would be to see that they're just stalling, and then... Oh, no, I guess, it's just too late. I don't... well, no. I guess the correct play from G2 would be to recognize that they're stalling and then run to the Infernal. Because then G2 gets like 4,000 plus gold. I just assume this game's over. Because G2's team comp is so much better, and they just have so much better stats. So, if there's anything that I really hope after tonight's VOD reviews, I hope that you guys appreciate how important drafts can actually be. Because you can see the insurance policies and how difficult some of the things are for the team that needs to win. Like how hard it was for Fnatic in this particular game, or like even in the game where G2 won. So I imagine that there's one more team fight. Probably just one more team fight and then the game ends. Let's just skip forward. Okay, so that's exactly what happened. Team comp's too disjointed. When they fall behind, no one can protect Tristana because they're too behind in base levels, which means that they're missing HP values. Like let's say that let's say Aurelia has 2 levels over Karma. It means that she actually absorbs a spell cast. That's what the levels mean. Or it means that Aurelia absorbs a turret shot. It grants fights on more even footing, in addition to like the resistances and the skill points and whatnot. So it's just so busted. Like 200 gold or 200 HP extra on perks, 200 HP extra on Silas. Like you add everything up, and then you factor in how much EHP they have, and that's why they can just dive turrets and ignore the front line for the Trist, and Trist isn't strong enough to do anything. This is why this team composition is very bad, because you draft a scaling ADC with a mid laner that ideally wants to scale, and then you forcefully commit them into an aggressive themed comp that allows the Tristana to walk forward aggressively, as if there's not other champions that do that but do it better without putting the onus on you to do something. So that's pretty much it for game number 4.